Bonjour French One. Today we're going to talk about how to invite somebody to do an activity, accept or refuse an invitation when somebody asks you to go along, and then how to actually set up that activity, because it's all fine and good to say, hey, do you want to go to the movies with me? If the person says yes, there's lots of other questions that happen as far as where are we going to meet, what time, things like that. So lots of questions and answers in this section. It's quite a bit of notes, so go ahead and take your time. If you need to rewind, pause, things like that, make sure you're taking care of that, and do your best to repeat after me. A lot of these, notice, have dots after them. That's because you actually have to fill in the activity that you're asking about, or the day that you're asking about, or the place that you're asking about, or whatever it might be. So make sure that you're making note when there's actually something to be filled in to complete the question, such as all of these questions here in the first section. If you're going to extend an invitation to somebody, you have to actually ask them about a specific activity. A couple different ways to do that here. You could say on fait and then complete in the activity. And I actually have an example of that right down here, such as on fait du jogging, which if you fill in jogging, out of all the activities that you could, you'd be asking, shall we do some jogging? Or should we jog? Or how about we jog? I know nobody really says shall we in English anymore, but anyway. On va is what about going? This is a form of aller. You should be recognizing that from our regular verb practice. So you could say something like on va au cinéma. What about going to the movies? Tu as envie de is do you feel like, but again you have to fill in something. So if you wanted to say something like, do you feel like playing cards? Tu as envie de jouer aux cartes? Ça te dit de and ça vous dit de. These last three words either change to the te or the vous based on whether you're talking to one person, multiple people, or whether it is like less formal in a friend or more formal like somebody that you would need to show a little bit of extra respect to. This is the tu form, this is the vous form. If you want to ask somebody, do you feel like, let's think of another activity, playing basketball. Ça te dit de jouer au basket? Or ça vous dit de jouer au basket? And then finally, tu viens, you should recognize this as a form of venir, which is the verb for to come. So you're asking somebody if they want to come along with you. An example down here is tu viens au centre commercial. You want to come to the mall. But again, you have to fill in a place there. So kind of be careful. On the en va and the tu viens, you kind of need a place there. And on the other three, you really need activities to fill in those blanks. So if somebody were to ask you about this, or if you were to ask somebody else, you'd obviously have to be able to respond with either a yes or a no. And of course, oui and no work perfectly fine, or you could kind of extend yourself a little bit. Here are 4 other ways of saying yes and accepting invitation. The first one is d'accord, which is okay. The second one is bonne idée, which is good idea. Pourquoi pas is the one that gets people every year because it means why not, as in, do you feel like playing basketball? Why not? It's a way of saying yes, though. A lot of times when people see the pas, they automatically associate that with negative things and they assume that it means no. It's actually a way of saying yes. And then we have a tu and a vous version here, depending on how you respond, how familiar you are with the person, or whether it's multiple people inviting you. If you want to say if you want, you say si tu veux, or si vous voulez. And you're just kind of saying like, yeah, sure, if you want, like we can do that. If by chance you do not want to hang out with that person or you are unable for whatever reason, here are some ways of refusing those invitations. Ça ne me dit rien. I'm going to say it again because it sounds so French when you say it right. Ça ne me dit rien is I don't really feel like it. It doesn't speak to me. It says nothing to me is literally what it translates to. So if you're not a big fan of basketball and somebody asks you, you know, ça te dit de jouer au basket, do you feel like playing some basketball? Oh, jouer au basket, ça ne dit rien. I'm playing basketball, I don't really feel like it. It doesn't speak to me. If it's just that you're kind of busy, you could say désolé, which by the way, all by itself is the word sorry, and then je n'ai pas le temps, which means I just don't have time. Along those same lines is j'ai trop de choses à faire, which I have too many things to do. And same idea with je suis très occupé. I'm very occupied, as in very busy. Now, once you're trying to figure out when somebody's accepted an invitation or you've accepted an invitation, there's going to be lots of things you need to talk about to make plans. These first two are kind of actually a couple of ways of asking about a specific day of the week instead of a specific activity. So just to get the ball rolling, if you say something like, hey, how about we go to the movies? And they say, sure, you kind of have to start narrowing down when that's going to happen. So you could say something like, let's see, qu'est-ce qu'on fait samedi? What are we doing on Saturday? And then you could say something like, well, on pourrait voir un film. We could see a movie. So these kind of go together. Probably the better one to use is tu vas faire quoi samedi? Which is down here in the sample conversation, which is literally, what are you going to do on Saturday? So if you finally agreed that y'all are going to go see a movie and they've accepted your invitation, tu vas faire quoi samedi? Well, what are you doing on Saturday? And let's try to set something up. Now, it might be that they turn you down, but at least you know that they still want to go. If they say, j'ai trop de choses à faire, again, I have too many things to do. I know it's on there twice. Same with je suis très occupé, I'm very busy. Those are ways of them saying, well, that particular day doesn't work for me. But if they don't have anything big going on, they might say something like rien de spécial, which means nothing special, or pas grand chose, which is no big thing, as in not much, I'm pretty much open. And once they've said something like that, you know that that's the day that you can go do something. So we're actually creating a sample conversation here, and it'll continue on the next page. So you could ask somebody, tu vas faire quoi samedi? Well, what are you doing on Saturday? Pas grand chose, not much. And then you could suggest, on pourrait aller au lac. We could go to the lake. But there's all kinds of other questions that could come up, such as, if there's a particular situation that you need to account for, like in this sample conversation, qu'est-ce que tu vas faire s'il pleut? What are you going to do if, and then in this case I filled in, it rains. As in, that lake idea sounds great, but what are you going to do if it rains? If you want to tell them what you will or what you are going to do, you have to start that sentence with je vais. And if you come down here, you can see that this person's solution to not being able to go to the lake if it rains is je vais aller au cinéma. I'm going to go to the movies. Probably the next thing you'll want to know is some details as far as who all's going, where are you meeting, and that's kind of where these next two questions come into play. You could ask somebody avec qui, which is with whom, and if you wanted to say avec qui tu vas aller au cinéma, with whom are you going to go to the movies, you can, but being that this is in the context of a conversation, you just say, well, who are you going to be going to the movies with? Avec qui. If you answer, you need to use the word avec, because avec means with. So in this particular sample conversation, we have avec toi, which is with you, Marc, et Julie. Kind of make sure that it's not a one-on-one date kind of situation, or maybe you want to find out that it is. Finally, something I didn't do in the sample conversation, but that might come up, is you might want to ask, well, where is whatever we're doing, or where are we going to meet? It kind of depends on the situation. Chances are you already know where the movie theater is. So où ça is literally where is that, but maybe it's a new cinema, maybe it's you're new to town. If you need to know where it's at, you can ask où ça. Or you could ask où est-ce qu'on se retrouve, which means where are we meeting. If they're not going to come by and pick you up, if it's not assumed that you'll meet at the movie theater, you might want to ask, well, where are we meeting? And they'll need to answer by giving you a place, such as au cinéma, at the movie theater, or chez moi, at my house, or things like that. But the thing to keep in mind with all of these questions and answers is they are very interchangeable. You can mix and match them. You can put them in different orders. Every conversation kind of goes in a different way. And if you think about how it really works whenever you're trying to make plans with somebody, that's how it goes in the English language as well. There's not always a perfect order to things. You just kind of start discussing how it's all going to work out as it comes up, and you start saying, well, who else is going, and what time are we meeting, and what day are we going to do this? And it doesn't always come up in this order, and there's not just one right answer for every question. So make sure that you're looking at what these questions and answers actually mean, and then think about that whenever you're putting them together in an actual conversation, and kind of reflect back to what they would mean in English in order to make sure that they're actually making sense. If you wanted to jot down those examples or those sample conversations, by all means rewind and do so, but otherwise make sure you bring this with you to class.